Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I'm Darshan Usman. The top stories this hour. As Nigeria commemorates June 12th, President Tinubu hails MKO Abiola and other heroes of the nation's democracy. ATM political party files court suit against South Africa's electoral body chairperson over alleged misconduct. Namibia to remove several European countries from its visa-exempt list for failure to reciprocate. Details of these stories and more shortly. News now begins in the west of the continent, where Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu paid tribute to the winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, Chief MKO Abiola, during his maiden Democracy Day address aired at 7 a.m. today. President Tinubu described the late Abiola, who died under suspicious circumstances following the annulment of the election by the late General Sani Abacha, as a martyr who stood for principles that are far more valuable than life itself. In his address, President Tinubu also acknowledged the sacrifices of numerous Nigerians who fought to establish democracy and paid the ultimate price. He eulogized Kudirat Abiola, wife of Chief Abiola, who was brutally murdered in the struggle for democracy, and Pa Alfred Rowane and Major General Shehu Yar'Adua retired, both of whom were also silenced by the military junta while pursuing democratic ideals.
We lost great heroes and heroines along the way. In this struggle, the winner of June 12, 1993 presidential election, Chief MKO Abiola, the most significant symbol of our democratic struggle, his wife, Kudirat, General Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, and Pa Alfred Rowane, amongst others, sacrificed their very lives. They bravely surrendered their fortunes so that our nation might have a better one.
Still on the commemoration of Democracy Day in Nigeria, President Tinubu has assured the organized labor that an executive bill on the new national minimum wage for workers will soon be sent to the National Assembly for passage. President Tinubu, who also acknowledged the economic difficulties in the nation, empathized with Nigerians and promised necessary repairs required to fix the economy. He urged Nigerians to embrace the challenges of the future and to continue moving forward together towards progress and prosperity.
I understand the economic difficulties we face as a nation right now. Our economy has been in desperate need of reform for decades. It has been unbalanced because it was built on the flawed foundations and over-reliance on revenue from exploitation of oil. The reforms we have initiated are intended to create a stronger, better foundation for future growth. There is no doubt that the reform has occasioned hardship. I feel your pains. Yet, there are necessary repairs required to fix the economy over the long run so that everyone has access to economic opportunity, fair pay, and compensation for his endeavor and labor. As we continue to reform the economy, I shall always listen to the people and will never turn my back on you. In this spirit, we have negotiated in good faith and with open arms with organized labor on a new national minimum wage. We shall soon send our executive bill to the National Assembly to enshrine what has been agreed upon as part of our law for the next 5 years or less.
Let's also tell you that a group of activists demonstrated against rising cost of living in defiance to warnings from the Nigerian Police Force as well as the Department of State Services. The group staged a walk in the Ikeja axis of Lagos State to express their anger with the government amidst economic hardship in the country. The DSS and the Nigerian police had earlier warned individuals and groups planning to stage physical protests on June 12, 2024 to desist, saying that the protests are designed with sinister objectives. The security agencies, in separate statements, emphasized that while citizens have the right to assemble and expression, these freedoms must not be used to undermine public safety and national security. In the meantime, the People's Democratic Party has issued a warning to President Bola Tinubu regarding the increase in destitution in Nigeria, cautioning that the reaction of a hungry populace is unpredictable. In a statement released on Tuesday to mark Nigeria's Democracy Day, observed annually on June 12th, PDP National Publicity Secretary Debo Ologunaba urged the president to align with democratic principles by listening to Nigerians and reviewing his suffocating policies. Ologunaba criticized the administration of the All Progressives Congress since 2015, accusing them of undermining the democratic principles, legacies, and values that the late Chief MKO Abiola fought and died for. The PDP called on Nigerians to use this year's Democracy Day as a platform to speak out against the anti-democratic tendencies of the current government. Now, to talk more on the 25 years of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria, I'm joined by legal practitioner Festus Ogun. Hello, Festus. Thank you so much for joining us at this time, and happy Democracy Day.
Thank you very much for having me, and happy Democracy Day to you and all Nigerians.
All right, Festus. Now, it's been 25 years of uninterrupted democratic rule in Nigeria. Are there specific legal precedents or landmark cases in Nigeria that exemplify the judiciary's role in upholding democratic values and principles?
Well, I would not restrict the answer to that question to the judiciary role in upholding democratic values and principles. I will restrict my answer to that very important question to the role of the judiciary in addressing the plight of our people. Ordinarily, the judiciary ordinarily should be the last hope of the common man. But what we have seen in our history is that the judiciary appears to be the lost hope of the common man. So when we are talking about democratic ideals, the greatest democratic ideals is the freedom of the citizenry to choose their leaders. We have a system, a judicial system currently, that doesn't necessarily dispense electoral justice. And that is the fear of most Nigerians. Democracy is about choosing your leaders. It's about the freedom to choose whoever leads you, unlike a military dictatorship or a monarchy system. Now, in a situation where we say our country is running a democracy and elections are held, marred by corrupt practices and non-compliance with the Electoral Act, can the average aggrieved participant in an election approach our judicial system and be certain of getting justice? I think, to me, that is the gauge in really checking if the judiciary is the last hope of the common man or not, or whether the judiciary has contributed significantly to the growth and advancement of democracy or not. I think a lot of work still has to be done. And that work will only be done when there is a complete reform of our justice system.
All right, Festus, could you talk to us about the challenges, the exact challenges that the Nigerian judiciary face in maintaining its independence and integrity while adjudicating matters related to democracy and governance?
First is the appointment of members of the judiciary. How are these judges appointed? What is the mode of appointment? Are they appointed based on merit, or they are appointed based on other considerations? Apart from the issue of appointments, which is usually clouded in secrecy. We have to also talk about the issue of funding. Who funds the judiciary? Who pays them? You know, the process of appointment is controversial, it's not clear, it's not transparent. Now we are talking about how are they paid? Who funds the judiciary? How are they funded? Again, we must also critically look at the operations of the judiciary. Who controls the operation of the judiciary? So I feel that for us to have an efficient and effective judiciary, we must address the issue of appointments. Appointment to the bench should be based on merits and nothing more. The people who are appointed as members of the bench should be people of transparent honesty and very high proven integrity.
All right.
The experience we've had in recent past seem to have suggested otherwise. Again, there is also the issue of judicial accountability. Who is the judiciary accountable to? When you are not comfortable with the action of members of the judiciary, who are they accountable to? Where do you go to, even as members of the public? So I feel that for us to for our judicial system to really achieve its potentials, then we must address the issue of appointments to the judiciary, and we must also address the issue of funding of the judiciary, which I think is very important.
All right, Festus, while we're still talking about accountability, separation of powers, and the independence of the judiciary, how can the judiciary effectively balance the need for impartiality, because we're talking about accountability here as well, impartiality and independence with the pressure to deliver swift and decisive judgments, you know, especially in cases with significant political implications?
It still boils down to the quality of individuals that are appointed to the bench. Now, if you are appointed to the bench through political connections, if you are appointed to the bench, I mean, if you become a judge through the influence of a political figure, it will be difficult for you to dispense justice, true justice, when you are called upon to adjudicate cases that are related to the said person. So I feel that we must insist that merit should be prioritized at the point of appointment. And we must also look at issue of, you know, funding the judiciary. When members of the judiciary are earning paltry sum, it exposes them to being corrupt. But because the ruling class in our country have understood that one of the ways to find a way around the judiciary is to, you know, not fund them appropriately. So I advocate for a reform. And talking about the issue of, you know, cases spending longer hours, longer years in court, very slow pace of justice, I think that we must appoint more judges in Nigeria. Most of the judges, I go to court practically every day. Most of the judges are overworked. I was still in court yesterday. Some cases could not go on because the number of cases listed, over 20, close to 30 cases for a day for a trial judge to adjudicate upon, is clearly impracticable. It got to a point, the trial judge was telling us that, look, if I take all of these cases, it is impracticable for me to deliver judgment within 90 days as stipulated under the Constitution. So I honestly feel that, one, we need to appoint more members of the bench. We need more judges so that the workload on the current judges will be reduced. But because the judiciary is not adequately funded, then we have a situation where a trial judge will have over 600 cases in his docket.
Festus, sadly, time is not on our side, but thank you so much for taking time out to speak to us on this.
Thank you very much for having me.
With that, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, the news continues. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, the federal government has announced changes to the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project to prevent potential damage to subsea cables owned by telecommunication companies. The highway, initially planned as a 10-lane project, has been downsized to 6 lanes to reduce costs. Minister of Works David Umahi made these announcements during a meeting with contractors on Tuesday in Abuja. He also revealed that the government has disbursed 10 billion naira as compensation to property owners affected by demolitions necessary for the construction of the 700-kilometer highway. Additionally, it was announced that the first 47 kilometers of the project will be open to the public by May of next year. The Lagos-Calabar Highway, currently under construction, will span 9 states with 2 spurs extending to northern states, featuring concrete pavement for enhanced durability. There was a mild drama at Nigeria's House of Representatives as representatives of the federal government and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria disagreed over the effects of the increased electricity tariff recently introduced by government. Now, this was as the House of Representatives convened a special public hearing with relevant stakeholders with an aim at resolving the crisis the increase in the electricity tariff has caused nationwide. Now, Idong Joseph has the report. All right, in the absence of that report, we move on, where the former Deputy Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives has called on the leadership of the parliament to intervene following the refusal of the Plateau State House Assembly to swear in some of its newly elected members. He says that despite the newly elected members meeting all the requirements of the law, only some select members were sworn in by the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly, while others have been ignored. He says that this contradicts the principles of fairness and justice and is a disregard to the nation's electoral law. Staff of Nigeria's Ministry of Defense headquarters in Abuja barricaded the entrance to the ministry over allegations of the continuous brutalization of civilian staff by military personnel. Now, this followed the attack on an assistant director at the Command Secondary School in Ikeja, Lagos, who was beaten to stupor and, according to the protesting staff, is currently battling for his life. Amadin Uyi reports.
Gory images from the Command Secondary School, Ikeja, in Lagos. An assistant director attached to the school was beaten to a state of stupor by 4 soldiers as his superior watched on.
Stop brutalizing the civilians!
This led to a protest at the Ministry of Defense headquarters in Abuja, where staff of the ministry say enough is enough.
Some months back, we gathered like this in this ship when one of our comrades in Lagos was brutalized by the Navy personnel, and at the end of the day, he died. And we raised an observation to the management, but up till now, we've not really seen any tangible result.
The staff who had barricaded the entrance to the ministry said this has continued repeatedly, with nothing being done by military authorities.
Unfortunately, again, yesterday, an assistant director was brutalized to a point of stupor that if you see him, that's an assistant director, a private soldier.
4 private soldiers, and the lieutenant was standing watching them.
And the lieutenant was standing
watching them. He gave the orders for him to be brutalized.
For an assistant director. Then it means at the end of the day, nobody is safe.
They said they want an end to brutalization of civilian staff by military personnel and urged the Minister of Defense to intervene and ensure justice for those who have been victims. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
There was mild drama at Nigeria's House of Representatives as representatives of the federal government and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria disagreed over the effects of the increased electricity tariff recently introduced by government. Idong Joseph has the report.
The increase in over 200% in the electricity tariff in January this year has led to a series of agitations, with many Nigerians, including organized labor, calling for its reversal. To find common ground on the looming showdown, the House of Representatives Joint Committee on Power, Commerce, National Planning, and Delegated Legislation convened a special hearing to resolve the crisis.
This committee is not going to be antagonistic. This committee is not going to, they are not on the frolic of their own to run anyone down. They are here to carry out their job as allowed by Section 88 and 89 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your opinion matters. And that is why you're occupying the various positions you're occupying as a stakeholder.
We are here to find lasting solution to it, and for the general public to hear the full side of the story.
The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, while giving reasons for the increase, says that this has helped improve power generation across the country.
And the discos too are getting more and more responsive by the day, by ensuring that we now pay so much attention to upgrading and enhancing their infrastructures. And on a daily basis, they are migrating more customers into Band A, and we have received positive feedbacks. Without the increase in tariff, the expected subsidy from federal government is close to 3 trillion. But with the increase in tariff of Band A consumers, the subsidy has come to about 1.1 trillion.
However, this did not go down well with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, as they expressed worry over the effects of the increase.
Right now, over 300 industries has closed down in the last 2 months, which means over 380,000 people lost their jobs.
Despite the Nigerian Labour Congress opposing the hike in tariff and even threatening a showdown with governments, none of its representatives was available to present their case. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
The annual Lagos International Climate Change Summit was initiated in 2009 to serve as the principal vehicle for setting the climate change agenda in Lagos. The 10th edition, held Tuesday, in what notable stakeholders in the climate change ecosystem in attendance to deliberate on important matters affecting Lagos and the world at large. News Central's Bettina Ngweli reports.
The Lagos State government says it will mobilize resources to finance the transition to a low-carbon economy and support those affected by the impact of climate change in the state. This is according to the Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokumbo Wahab, while speaking at the 10th Lagos State International Climate Change Summit on Tuesday in Lagos.
According to the Global Sixth Assessment Report of the IPCC, the chairman, Yusong Lee, says, and I quote, "Mainstreaming effective and equitable climate action will not only reduce the losses and damages for nature and people, it will also provide wider benefits." This statement underscores the urgent reality that climate change is not waiting for us. We are running out of time. The solution to this lies in climate resilient development, which involves integrating measures to adapt to climate change with actions to reduce or avoid greenhouse gas emissions.
In 2020, Lagos launched a 5-year climate action plan that prioritizes actions towards zero-carbon development goals in sectors including transport, agriculture, energy, and waste management. In 2021, the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency reported more than 30,000 pollution-related premature deaths in Lagos alone.
With strategic partnership and the development of charging infrastructure, this transition is moving us closer to our goal of achieving a net zero carbon footprint by 2050. Together, we are pioneering green transportation in Nigeria.
Coastal erosion is a real-life issue. So protecting one place doesn't necessarily mean it is transferring the problem. It just means that more work needs to be done. So as we have finished work in the defense of Victoria Island and Ikoyi, I think what will require funding support is the reactivation, if that is the right word, of the plan to construct more groins, because those were the tools that we deployed then along the coastal way.
A low-carbon economy can be seen as a step in the process towards a zero-carbon economy. While the government is determined to create livable and resilient infrastructure that would withstand the impact of climate change in Lagos State, climate action is and should be the collective responsibility of all and sundry.
Rescuers have lost hope of finding at least 20 Nigerian miners trapped in a collapsed pit over a week ago alive. According to Ibrahim Audi Hussaini, spokesman for the State Emergency Management Agency, the chance of finding survivors is now considered lost 8 days after the miners were buried inside the pit. Hussaini clarified that the rescue operation has not been officially called off, but however, families of the trapped miners, who are predominantly Muslim, have already held the 7th-day prayer for the repose of their souls, acknowledging their likely deaths. The accident occurred on June 3rd, trapping artisanal miners employed by a local company in Kelgoko village, located in Shiroro district of central Niger State. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, the news continues. Stay with us. In response to the escalating deforestation crisis in Nigeria's northeast, UNICEF and the Borno state government have joined hands to launch a comprehensive action plan aimed at reversing the damage caused by rampant tree cutting. The Borno Climate Action Plan will focus on planting 1 million trees throughout the state to restore depleted forests and combat climate change. News Central's Umari Kirawa completes the report.
The cutting down of trees continues, particularly in the rural communities. This is because it is the age-old practice of the people as they strive for survival. This practice is considered dangerous to the generality because it leads to reduced vegetation and agricultural productivity, among other shocks and disruptions. Experts have been vocal about the need for urgent intervention, highlighting the devastating impact of deforestation on local ecosystems, biodiversity, and livelihoods.
I want to ask you to make your contributions on how we can get our environment in Borno to be better, so that we can get our rains, we can reduce floods, we can have more food, we can have more wildlife, we can have more wood fuel or fuel woods, and also trees that we can sit under.
By engaging in activities such as tree planting, waste recycling, and promising renewable energy solutions, the youth can make direct contribution to minimizing waste and reducing carbon footprints. Together, we can build a sustainable future for our children. By empowering the youth and by committing to decisive climate action, we can transform challenges into opportunities.
This year alone, the state government is raising 10 million assorted seedlings of planting in various parts of the state, more especially in areas hard hit by the encroaching desert.
They stressed the importance of implementing strict measures to regulate tree cutting and preserve the region's natural resources for future generations.
And we must also adopt improved irrigation techniques such as the drip and the sprinkler systems, as well as conservation measures that are aimed at reducing soil degradation.
So when we follow these action plans, it will help us reduce the carbon emission into the atmosphere.
The community-led conservative initiatives by the government and development partners is a step to tackle the situation. However, the question is, are sustainable alternatives available for both rural and urban dwellers to win them of this choice of fuel? In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
The Nigeria Data Protection Commission says that it generated about 6.2 billion naira in 2023 alone. The chief executive officer of the commission, during an interactive session with the media as part of activities to mark the first-year anniversary of the enactment of the Nigeria Data Protection Act, says that the commission has concluded plans to train 1,000 data protection officers within the next 1 month. News Central's Joshua Imarai has the details.
One-day engagement with the media in commemoration of the enactment of Nigeria's 2023 Data Protection Act. The Nigeria Data Protection Commission says that the Act has provided a legal framework to enable the Commission perform its duties as Nigeria's primary data protection agency. The Chief Executive Officer of the Commission, while making this known in the nation's capital, Abuja, says that the agency has been saddled with the responsibility of ensuring adequate data protection of citizens and enforcing privacy compliance in the country.
We have gained global recognition and made a lot of impact in terms of recording the rights of our citizens, looking at the obligations of data controllers and processors, knowing that data subjects are the supreme being here. All we're interested in is the citizens of this country. And in terms of scope, if you're a data controller, a data processor, you are domiciled in Nigeria, you process data of Nigerians, you are within scope. And if you're a data controller or processor, you're outside, you are not domiciled in Nigeria, you operate outside Nigeria, but you process data of Nigerians, you are within scope. And one thing that the law has empowered us to do now is to work with other DPAs, data protection authorities, to enforce our laws in their jurisdictions.
The Nigerian Data Protection Commission says the 2023 Nigerian Data Protection Act has strategically positioned Nigeria in the map for foreign direct investment, particularly in the area of digital economy. The Commission says it has generated a revenue of 6.2 billion naira in the year 2023.
In terms of economic value, we have an ecosystem that is worth over 10 billion naira now, also because of the law. But in the area of foreign direct investment, this law has now positioned Nigeria as a country that is ready for digital business. Because most countries now, development partners, in fact, there are some development partners doing one thing or the other with a lot of organizations in Nigeria. The first they work that you have a data protection law.
The Commission also revealed that it has concluded plans to train 10,000 public servants in data responsibility management and another 1,000 data protection officers in the next 1 month. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Coming up after the break. Namibia to remove 31 countries from its visa-exempt list. We'll bring you details after the break. Stay with us. And now in the south of the continent, the African Transformation Movement, ATM Party, says it has taken a step towards ensuring electoral integrity and justice as served by filing papers with the Electoral Court calling for the court's due consideration into allegations of misconduct against the chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission. The ATM Party says the IEC chairperson allegedly conspired with the ruling party ANC to undermine ATM's participation in the democratic process, including attempts to deregister the party and manipulate election outcomes. Meanwhile, among the various reliefs sought, the ATM says there is a necessity for a revote for justice and accountability. And to discuss this, I am joined by ATM National Spokesperson Zaman Shona. Hello, Zama. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Thank you so much. Good day to you and the viewers.
Good day. All right. So what are your reasons, as a party for suing the IEC chair?
Thank you so much. Our application is multi-pronged. Number one would actually be the issue of, when you look at the Constitution of Parliament, Section 46, you will see that it says there should be no less than 350 members to 400, but that must be a byproduct of 3 to 4 undertakings. Number one, there must be a declaration of a national voters' roll. And that national voters' roll will be the one that gives birth to the 400 members that must occupy space in Parliament. And you would have seen, might have seen reports that are clearly indicating that that process did not go as accordingly. As you would know, many were displaced, many did not appear, many were not found in the voting station that they registered in. And for us as the African Transformation Movement, that's a point we must challenge in the constitution of government. Number two, giving equal opportunities to those who are over 18 years and above. And the African Transformation Movement sees the IEC as a political party, as an institution that has failed in that account as well. Thirdly, there must be a declaration of elections, the running and declaration of free and fair elections. But when you look into that and look at the number of irregularities that you have found within these elections, which include, amongst many, the issue of POs, which are presiding officers, who did not perform their duties in an impartial and objective way, who decided to become players in the space by changing result slips. Number four, the issue of incorrect capturing of results is also one of the reasons that we are saying the determination of the constituting of Parliament was actually done in a wrong manner. This is why we have taken the issue to the Electoral Court, saying this matter then calls for an investigation and the courts to evaluate if the production of the 400 or the constituting of Parliament was done in a right way, which then means that in Parliament on Friday, you can't then proceed with the proceedings when the matter is sub judice. Rule 14Q of the joint sitting of Parliament is very clear. No member shall actually speak on a matter that is before the courts. So that is one part of the issue that we have taken to the to the Electoral Court.
All right, Zama.
The second issue.
Okay,
all right.
Zama, just before you move on to the second one, now, the ATM is not the only party that has complained of elections irregularities. Now, have you been able to speak to any of the other parties? What are they saying on this?
We are part of an over 20 political parties who are not happy with how elections were run. So we have spoken to these political parties, and those political parties are still on course in challenging. We are challenging as individuals, and we are challenging as a collective.
Okay. All right. Now, we understand that, the Parliament will sit on Friday. What's your party's position on the sit-in before some grievances are heard, and your thoughts on the government of, national unity as well?
Thank you so much. We believe as the African Transformation Movement, you can't constitute a government not unless the courts of law actually pronounce on the irregularities. The process that gave birth to the 400 members is riddled with irregularities, and therefore it would be wrong for the South African Parliament to be constituted using a process that was riddled with irregularities. So going to Friday, we are there to tell them that we have filed our papers with the Electoral Court, and therefore no one can speak on matters of the constitution of Parliament because the matter is before the courts. We can't elect a speaker, we can't elect a president because the matter is being challenged in the courts of law.
All right, well, thank you so much, Zama, for speaking to us on this.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Namibia's Ministry of Home Affairs, Immigration, Safety and Security says 31 countries, mainly from Europe, will be removed from its visa-exempt list due to the lack of reciprocal visa arrangements for Namibian citizens. The Namibian authorities say nationals from these countries will need to complete an online application form and obtain visas on arrival. According to the Namibia Tourism Satellite account, the tourism sector contributes 6.9% to the country's GDP. The European markets, which are crucial to Namibia's tourism industry, are included in the list of countries that may now require a visa on arrival. The news continues in a moment. Stay with us. In the world of sports, the Nigerian National League Super 8 playoffs final matches will occur simultaneously at Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium and University of Enugu UNEC Temporary Stadium. The initial 4 matches commence at 10 a.m. on June 12, 2024, with the subsequent games slated for 12:30 p.m. In the Northern Conference, Nasarawa United leads with 6 points, requiring a draw for a Nigeria Premier Football League spot. Matches involving Sokoto United versus El Kanemi Warriors and Beyond Limits Academy versus Ikorodu City will be held behind closed doors due to previous fan misconduct. NNL's COO, Dr. Aya Abdurrahman, aims to prevent fan clashes during critical matches. According to him, Southern Conference fixtures feature Ikorodu City versus Madiba FC and Inter Lagos versus Beyond Limits will be played simultaneously for fairness. And that's it at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that President Tinubu has hailed MKO Abiola and other heroes of the nation as Nigeria commemorates June 12th Democracy Day. We also told you that ATM political party has filed court suit against South Africa's electoral body chairperson over alleged misconduct. Finally, you heard that Namibia is set to remove several European countries from its visa-exempt list for failure to reciprocate. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.